They said it casually, like they were offering friendly advice, but the sting didn't fade. My parents didn't even look up from their plates when they said it. "Why don't you get a respectable job?" As if the work I'd poured my life into was nothing more than a hobby I should abandon. My sister didn't even wait a second before laughing, nudging her phone toward them, so they could all enjoy whatever meme she'd found that somehow felt like it was aimed at me. They had already decided what success should look like. A stable salary, a predictable path, something that fits neatly into their conversations with relatives. Anything outside that box was treated like a phase, a game, or a sign of laziness. And every time they reminded me of it, they acted surprised that I didn't magically become more eager to visit them. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. Your one tap truly motivates me to keep creating for you. I didn't fight back. I'd learned long ago that defending myself only gave them more ammunition. Instead, I watched them talk about my sister's promotion for the 10th time that month, as if she'd reinvented the entire company instead of just switching departments. Every praise directed at her came with a silent comparison directed at me. But what they didn't know, what they never bothered to ask, was that my work wasn't the fragile dream they imagined. I'd been building something slowly, methodically, without asking for their approval. I'd spent late nights studying, early mornings grinding, and weekends they assumed I was wasting. I took the failures on the chin, learned what I needed, reinvested what I earned, and built the kind of stability that doesn't brag but quietly grows. The only thing I didn't do was tell them. That night, as their comments echoed in my chest, I felt a shift. Not anger, just a deep, steady clarity. They weren't mocking me because I was failing. They were mocking me because they didn't know who I had become. And soon, they were going to find out in a way none of them could laugh at. The weeks after that dinner felt strangely calm. Their words still hovered in the back of my mind, but not with the heaviness they once carried. It was more like background noise, something distant, something that couldn't touch me anymore. I had work to do, and the results of that work were finally beginning to take shape. My routine tightened. Mornings started earlier, nights ended later, and every spare moment was poured into scaling the thing they believed wasn't a real job. They weren't around to see the long calls with clients, the negotiations that stretched into midnight, or the hours I spent analyzing data, fixing issues, and planning the next moves. They didn't see the milestones quietly stacking up while they assumed I was wasting my time. My sister kept posting about her new life upgrade every week, attaching hashtags about hustle and discipline, even though she rarely moved beyond the comfort of her own privilege. My parents shared every post of hers with pride. Mine, they didn't even know what to share because I never gave them a window into my world. I didn't need them to brag on my behalf. I was building something they had no framework for understanding. Then, everything shifted with one email. A major company I'd been chasing for months reached out, asking for a meeting. They said they'd seen my previous work and were impressed that my approach stood out. When I closed that deal a week later, a contract worth more than my parents earned in a year, I sat there in silence, staring at the signed document, not celebrating, not bragging, just letting it sink in. Not a respectable job. Work exploded after that. The contract put my name in circles I'd only dreamed of entering. Referrals poured in, inquiries doubled, my schedule tripled. I expanded my system, hired 2 freelancers, and upgraded everything: equipment, tools, workspace. Month by month, numbers climbed, each one a quiet reminder that I had been right to trust my own path. I bought myself a new apartment, paid for it in full. I bought a car, paid for that, too. I set up investments, cleared every remaining debt, and still had more than enough to breathe easily. It was a different kind of success, not the loud, showy kind, but the steady version built from discipline and patience. The kind that stays. Then the family group chat lit up, another dinner invitation. The same restaurant, as always. The same gathering where they bragged about my sister and pretended I wasn't sitting 3 feet away. I almost ignored it. I didn't owe them my presence, but something in me shifted. Maybe it was time. Maybe the silence had gone on long enough. I showed up early, dressed simply but sharply, choosing confidence over flash. When they saw me, their reactions were the same as always. A quick nod, a polite smile, a hint of judgment tucked behind their eyes. My sister made a comment about my shirt, something vaguely mocking, and my parents chuckled like it was harmless. They hadn't changed, but I had. As the dinner went on, they slipped right back into their usual script. My sister talked about her workload, which somehow always sounded harder than everyone else's. My parents raved about her achievements, listing them out like a resume they memorized for sport. They didn't ask about my life once. Not a single question. But the moment that shifted the entire table came when a man approached me and shook my hand. He was the regional manager from the company I'd signed with. He happened to be dining there too. He thanked me for the great work I'd done and told me they were excited about expanding the partnership. My parents froze. My sister's smirk evaporated. When he left, the silence at our table was thick. My father finally asked what I did for a living. My mother leaned in, suddenly interested. My sister stared at me, trying to calculate how much she'd underestimated. I didn't brag. I didn't show numbers. I didn't list achievements. I just explained what I did in the simplest, clearest way possible. Their faces shifted with every sentence: confusion, realization, discomfort, shock. Respectable job? I could see the regret forming like a storm behind their eyes. But I wasn't there to rub anything in. I wasn't there to get revenge. I was there to show them the version of me they chose not to see. And that version was only getting started. The drive home from that dinner felt different. Not triumphant, not angry, just clean. Like a weight I'd carried for years had finally loosened. They didn't apologize, of course. People like them rarely do, but the shift in their tone was impossible to miss. They spoke softer. They listened longer. They watched me with a kind of uncertainty, realizing the person they dismissed had outgrown the box they tried to keep me in. 2 days later, my mother called. She sounded cautious, almost rehearsed. She asked if I could help my sister with a project she was struggling to finish. She hinted that my skills could come in handy. My father sent a text an hour later asking if I'd like to join a family trip next month. None of it was genuine connection. It was convenience wrapped in fake warmth. I didn't get emotional. I didn't get angry. I simply told them no. Not rudely. Not dramatically. Just no. Because success didn't make me want revenge. It made me want distance. I wasn't their backup plan. I wasn't their fixer. I wasn't the invisible one sitting at the edge of the table waiting for scraps of approval. I had my own life now. My own work. My own peace. And I wasn't shrinking again to fit into their story. Word spread through the family about the contract, then the apartment, then the car. Suddenly, I wasn't the unemployed gamer or the aimless dreamer. I was the one who made it. But the truth is, I didn't do any of it to impress them. I did it because I finally believed I deserved more than the version of me they kept trying to convince me was real. And now that I know what I'm capable of, there's no going back.